Finally, the time has come for me to cease staring at your face. People who don't work and are freeloaders ought to go. For as long as you've been able to take advantage of people, you should be thankful. Recognized. I'm not going to return. I'm grateful for all you've done thus far. I quickly packed the items I would need and left the house where I had lived for many years with my in-laws. My mother-in-law was beaming as she watched me go. But there's a sad reality that only I know about. I know what is going to happen to this house. My name is Sarah. I am 32 and I work from home. I've been dating my husband Alan for 5 years. We had a tranquil life together until the 4th year of our marriage. My father-in-law was healthy up to the point at which he became ill and required care. After that, we moved in with my in-laws. I didn't think it was a good idea for my in-laws to move in with them so soon, even though my husband is an only child and they don't have any other family. Ultimately, we took care of my father-in-law. I thought about quitting my job if it came to his care, but my company allowed me to continue working remotely because of my prior work productivity. Issues with my in-laws surfaced right away. Yes, I have also handled the thorny situation with a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. Sarah, please take care of the cooking and cleaning right away. How long are you going to be lazy and put off performing your chores? Mother-in-law, I'm working right now. What subject are you talking about? You click on the computer non-stop. Well, you're simply browsing the internet, not really working, is that right? The idea that using a computer and accessing the internet are the same thing is so outdated. I am able to work from home because of my employer's approval. In between taking care of my father-in-law and cleaning the house, I've made use of my abilities to earn back my old salary. I was actually thrilled when I ultimately brought my income back to what it had been before, which is why I worked so hard for around 3 months. Actually, with Alan's income, we're barely scraping by. I had thought that things would become easier in due course. I even thought about starting to save money. But for some reason, things just kept getting harder. It seemed like I was always losing money in my wallet. I looked into Alan's spending patterns since I felt suspicious and found that he had been wasting money. I also learned that my mother-in-law was a very frugal spender. Throughout his life, Alan has always tried to please others. Therefore, he often buys his younger coworkers lunch. But it looks like he's also been paying for people's drinking parties with our credit cards lately. If Alan eats more than that, our money would soon run out regardless of how much I produce. After graciously covering the expense of the class, my mother-in-law balances her numerous hobbies with her friends and goes out to mingle. I feel it unacceptable that my mother-in-law and husband continue to waste money and put their faith in me to look after my father-in-law and the property. I no longer have the luxury of saving money since I have to utilize my paycheck to cover all of our living expenses. I decided to discuss this matter with my spouse and mother-in-law since I was concerned about it. Ellen and her mother-in-law seem to have been spending a lot of money recently. If this continues, we will run out of money. Please try cutting back on your expenses. Ellen and my mother-in-law responded quietly to what I had said. I want to stay out of the spotlight. I don't want to come out as being thrifty to my coworkers and subordinates. I'm assuming you understand that. It won't give the impression that you are thrifty if you sometimes fail to pay for items. There's no need to treat them every single time. You don't seem to understand how important it is to have good working relationships with your coworkers in order to have an effective workplace. Taking your juniors out to lunch is one thing, but what about the bars for girls? That has nothing to do with your employment, is it? Are you not only looking to have fun? How did you accomplish that? You talk about it without anyone asking when you go home after drinking. That basically means he's having more fun there than he is with you. That mom can connect. That's a relief. She laughs, and she's not wrong. If I missed my classes, I would personally stay home and relax. I'm studying with my friends to make the most of my time here on Earth. I am blessed with the most awful daughter-in-law. Since all you do is clean the house and you are not compensated, you have no grounds for complaint. Really, though, what in the world is she thinking? Looking down at us from atop a tall horse was a housewife. I promise that I am at work. I have a reliable source of income and make contributions to our house. I'm also cleaning the house and tending to my father-in-law. Refrain from lying. Working from home does not pay that much. The mother is the one distributing KS. Speak to a part-time staff with less arrogance. I was hearing things that gave me the creeps. I had no way of answering. They didn't appear to notice that I was balancing housekeeping and caregiving while earning a steady income. Moreover, my mother-in-law seems to have told Alan that my father-in-law needed to be taken care of, creating the appearance that I was a stay-at-home mother who did nothing. I thought about leaving the location more than once. After considerable consideration, my father-in-law persuaded me to stay. Since I got married, my father-in-law has treated me really tenderly and has told me things like this. Unlike Alan and my mother-in-law, I appreciate you being such a wonderful daughter-in-law, Sarah. I'm sorry for everything. I have no trouble taking care of you, father-in-law. Why would you say that? I feel terrible asking you to take care of me in this way, of course. Above everything, though, I'm miserable for my wife and kids. They can do anything they want since you have total power over them, right? Really, it is accurate. I am aware that your hard work keeps the finances of our home stable. Ellen's wages wouldn't be enough to support this household. You'd known all along, Dad-in-law? It appears his father-in-law had known for a while about the situation our family was in. And every time he received attention, he would thank them with lovely words. Because I actually liked my father-in-law, I came to enjoy looking after him. What would happen to this house if I left? I was concerned about who would take care of my father-in-law, so I decided to be the one to provide him the care he needed until he passed away. A year later, my father-in-law passed away. I cried the entire time during my beloved father-in-law's funeral. Sarah, why are you always crying? Why is that? Dad-in-law isn't here anymore. Isn't this the intended course of grief? I have been his caretaker for the entire duration. My mother-in-law appeared furious at my comment. You make it seem as though I was completely indifferent to him. In actuality, my mother-in-law did not give my father-in-law a lot of attention. She was always engaged in her activities and went out a lot. I was home, so she didn't have to take care of anyone or clean the house. She even put on an emotional show for the family, acting as though she were the oppressed and defenseless mother-in-law. To strangers, they most likely looked like the poor, oppressed mother-in-law. To outsiders, I think I looked like the cruel daughter-in-law. They would defend her, advising her to stop being so harsh with her mother-in-law and to come to me for the help. I was angry because people who didn't understand me were criticizing me even though I was merely mourning my father-in-law's death. I choose to maintain my distance from the family. That's when Alan saw me and rushed over to tell me how angry he was. You embarrassed your mom in front of everyone? What subject are you talking about? That makes absolutely no sense. I was crying only because my father-in-law had passed away. When your mother arrived, she said I was sobbing, which was strange. You created the impression that she hadn't paid any attention to Dad at all, didn't you? I never said anything along those lines. I previously talked about how saddened I was by the death of my father-in-law, who I had always had my back. Given that your mother did nothing at all, you could have seen it as criticism. Are you jesting with Mom? I do not intend to offend anyone. Please, just the facts. There was also more you could have done to better care for your father-in-law, if that's actually a concern for you. If you're so upset about it, you should have taken care of him yourself. Which company are you the owner of? You call me out, but why? Is this truly not my concern? Since you are linked to him by blood, it is reasonable that you would take care of him. This family pays me a salary. Taking care of the family and the house are duties performed by wives. That is absurd. Don't be so ridiculous. You see, I'm employed too. When our argument got out of hand, family members had to intervene. They ended our argument, but I didn't speak to my husband again after that. An attorney came to talk about the inheritance after the funeral. I would want to discuss the specifics of the will left by your late father's estate with you. First, he has left his son Alan ownership of the family's assets and home, and he has left half of his money to each of you, his wife and daughter-in-law Sarah. Why is that? If Alan inherits the house and land, doesn't the wife inherit everything else? Why does Sarah have an inheritance? I am his wife. Your spouse was quite grateful that Sarah gave him such focused attention. He wanted to offer her a share of the riches as a token of his thanks. He made this choice, and it cannot be changed. It seems unreal to me. Indeed, I do comprehend. It's not as though you looked after him just to get the inheritance. How on earth are you going to trust that? There is nothing else that could be. Even in the case that you were not biologically related, you could not have been so devoted to him. I have had a good relationship with my father-in-law ever since I got married. I wanted to take care of him as a way of saying thanks for that. Are you saying that you tried to assign me, a complete stranger, to take care of your own husband? Does it not resemble psychological mistreatment? Refrain from being ridiculous. All right, I'll wrap it up. My mother-in-law continued, as if irritated that she couldn't say anything more inappropriate in front of the lawyer. Dad made that decision back then. Does that mean that I'm grateful for Sarah giving me Kay? If that's the case, we have no choice but to abide by it. May I continue? All right. Your father has informed you that you are no longer dependent on Sarah. Just minutes before, my mother-in-law had been upset, but hearing this, her visage suddenly brightened with a smile. Yes, it is very wonderful. I understand. How come? What do you mean by this? My wife was confused, but my mother-in-law seemed content. It appeared as though he did not comprehend her. Therefore, in the end, Sarah's bequest is really just severance pay. It's hardly even gratitude. Now that Dad has done distributing cakes, Sarah is no longer needed in this household. My mother-in-law had read my father-in-law's will incorrectly, as I had expected. Actually, I had previously discussed this with my father-in-law. My father-in-law wanted me out of this house when he passed away. With remarkable ability, he conned my mother-in-law and my husband, using the will to make it seem logical for me to move out. And just as my father-in-law had meant, my mother-in-law misunderstood his true intentions and saw the will as a chance to kick me out. Father-in-law, why would you treat me like this? I said, trying not to let on that I was genuinely excited to go. I feigned amazement at the will. You see, all you were was someone who would take care of your father. Ellen, are you no longer able to understand Sarah? Could you just give her a divorce? Ellen, you intend to remain my spouse, correct? I was sobbing and staring at Ellen when he finally said, You know what? Let's get a divorce. My mother was paid too, and I inherited the family home and belongings. Caregiving is no longer a worry, thus it won't be a problem if Sarah departs. Well, it's unclear what you mean by that. Just what I said. I'm sorry to disturb you, but could you just agree to the divorce and get out of our house? Acknowledged? I seem to have lost all place here. Gently, I took a piece of paper out of the drawer and handed it to my husband. After our altercation, I went and took this. The paper undoubtedly included a divorce filing notification. My husband immediately signed it. I am finally free of your presence. When a freeloader stops working, they should just go. Giggles. You should be grateful that we put up with you. A total bondage. Is that correct? Okay, I understand. I'm about to go. I'm grateful for all you've done thus far. Since the lawyer is here, could you just check anything again? It's all well, though, because I have received everything I want from my father-in-law's estate. Of course. You seem to have become a little wiser, Sarah. You've been getting by on me so far. So, please don't even think of attempting to defraud me of further money. All right, I suppose you're right. All right. That is decided at that point. Please disappear from view quickly. I hurriedly packed things and left my in-laws' house. As she watched me depart, My mother-in-law appeared to be as content as she could be. They had no idea what this house's future contained. As soon as I moved out of my in-laws' house, I filed for divorce, and I was so relieved to be by myself in the spacious, light-filled apartment that I started yelling. "This is amazing!" I was thrilled to leave such a difficult marriage behind, and I was very grateful to my father-in-law for devising the plan that allowed me to leave my in-laws' home. I had a happy, single life after that. I was able to become used to working remotely while residing at my in-laws' place, which enhanced my time management abilities and helped work go more smoothly. I was making more money and enjoying a nice, intrusion-free life as a consequence. That is, until I received a call one day from my ex-husband Alan. "It's been a while. Why would you want to give me a call?" "We're having trouble right now. Sarah, will you kindly assist?" "Is this a joke of any kind? Were you the ones who told me to disappear?" "My compensation hasn't changed, yet for some reason we're cash-strapped. We cannot live like this." "Oh my," I laugh. "Is this not an issue?" I decided to deliver the final blow. "That's because you are no longer supported by my money." "How come?" "What do you mean by this? You still don't get it? Did you not realize that your pay was insufficient even though you were living such an opulent lifestyle? You're telling me that my pay won't cover our expenses, when I had believed it would? Clearly, you blew your whole paycheck on yourself. All we needed to live was for me to pay our living expenses. Maybe it's time for you and your mother to grow up and take responsibility for their finances. That is, how much money did you make at the time?" "I'll see you later." At the time, I believe I was making $4,800 a month. Greater than my own in that. It is true, indeed. You didn't know, did you? My husband's rage was palpable, even over the phone, as he laughed and said, "By the way, I'm earning even more than that now that nobody is getting in my way. Is it too late to start afresh, Sarah?" "Oh. It was my fault for letting you leave. I want to make things right again." "How come?" "You obviously want my money. Are you truly so stupid?" "That is not accurate. I still admire you, Sarah. Refrain from being ridiculous. I hope I never have to see your face again. By the way, what happened to your mother's inheritance? I take it that she should be able to make ends meet with that amount?" "That's the problem. It will soon run out." "That is not practical. Was that not almost $100,000? That much cannot be used up in a few months. We spent it on shopping sprees and trips overseas with my mother, and we lost half of it at the casino. A foolish mother gives birth to a dumb son. I don't know what to say to you. Moreover, now that I'm a stranger, I can't and I don't want to do anything for you. Don't be so heartless. Help me. I have no involvement whatsoever in this. There's nothing else to talk about, so I'm hanging up. Don't call me back, please." I said this, ended the conversation, and then terminated the contract on my cell phone. I don't know what happened to my ex-husband or mother-in-law after that, therefore it's none of my concern. However, a year or two after that call, I passed my mother-in-law's house and there was an empty lot instead of a house. They most likely had to sell the residence due to financial constraints. In any case, I truly have no anxiety about it. With my newfound spare time, I began going to a wine class that I had been interested in for a long. There, after a year and a half of dating, I married a man who was 2 years my senior and actually treated me seriously. He is the star player in a well-known company that most people have heard of, and despite earning a lot of money, he manages to maintain his modesty and wonderful demeanor. We enjoy a respectful and contented marital life, and he values my work. I believe that my father-in-law gave me this full retribution as a gift these days. It feels like my father-in-law is giving me all of this retaliation as a gift.